You're thinking about Doughnuts, by me, Michael Rosen. Chapter 2. The museum. Up the steps, the big grey stones in the walls, the pillars, the statues, all those stone people. Blimey, thought Frank. One of them winked. That one at the end, the one with the beard and the sword with no clothes on. He winked. I saw him. Mum, said Frank, who's that? Him, said Mum, looking at the naked man with the sword. That's your Uncle Charlie. No, really, Mum, said Frank, who is it? How should I know, said Mum. All I know is that you shouldn't go waving that sword about without his trousers on. Now come on, Frank. She had the key in her hand. Frank looked at the statue again. Maybe it didn't wink. As soon as they were in the museum, Mum got her overall on and sat Frank down on the bench. Now listen here. You stay put right here, Frank. You don't move, you don't walk off. You understand me? Yes, Mum, said Frank. She looked at him as if to say, don't you be such a cheeky worm. But she said nothing, and off she went, past the glass cases and out of sight. Oh, it made him feel rotten all over to see her go. He wanted her to come back, even if it was only to shout at him for being cheeky or stupid. He was all on his own. The great big hall, empty. No one else there. The shiny floor, the high roof, looking up at those little windows high up. Scary to think of someone cleaning them. Frank saw himself like an acrobat in the circus, leaping from one of the windows over to one of the huge lights that dangled down from the ceiling. Oh no, he daydreamed. I've missed. I'm falling. I'm falling. I'm falling. Then everything went quiet. Everything was very quiet. Frank felt very alone. Then he felt his eyes moving very slowly sideways. They stopped when they got to a glass case on the other side of the hall. He was looking at a big human skeleton. As he looked, the skeleton seemed to bend very slowly forwards. Frank felt his hands go hot. The skeleton's hand seemed to fiddle with something in one corner of its glass case. Frank heard a rattling. He swallowed, and the noise in his throat swelled in his ears. The skeleton opened the front of the glass case. It did. He saw it. Then it stepped out onto the shiny museum floor and began to walk. Frank didn't move. It was walking towards him. Frank couldn't move. A great white skeleton was walking slowly across the shiny floor towards him. All Frank dared do was stare. But it was unbearable to watch it walking nearer and nearer. Finally, it arrived at Frank's bench and stood over him. Frank looked up into the dark holes where the eyes should be. It spoke to him. Well? What? Said Frank in a little squeaky voice. What? Well, it said. What do you want? I don't want anything, said Frank. You must want something, said the skeleton. Everyone wants something. I've never heard of anyone who didn't want anything at all. Frank just stared at it. You're boggling, it said. You're just boggling. You're not even thinking what I asked you. What's the matter with you? Don't you listen when people ask you things? Stop boggling and listen. What do you want? Nothing, said Frank. Look here. We've done that one already. Don't waste my time, boy. I proved that you must want something because everybody does. If you say you don't want anything, you must be lying. I don't like people who lie. Frank thought about it. He didn't think he was a liar. I know what you're thinking, said the skeleton. You're thinking you're not a liar. Look here, just tell me something you want. Frank looked blank. How about a donut? Do you want a donut? Frank thought about donuts. OK, he said. Yeah, I want a donut. There you are, said the skeleton. You do want something. Frank felt very puzzled. He also felt hungry. Well, hungry enough to eat a donut. I know what you're thinking, said the skeleton. You're thinking you weren't hungry until I started talking about donuts. But now I've said donut, you want a donut, don't you? Frank nodded. And I'll tell you something else. I haven't got a donut to give you. And what do you think of that, eh? Frank muttered nothing to himself. He was feeling a bit silly by now. The skeleton said, Do you know why I asked you what you want? No, said Frank, I don't. Oh, come on. It's obvious. No, I don't know, said Frank. Because I want you to ask me what I want. Do you? Said Frank. Yes, said the skeleton. Frank looked at it again. Well, come on then, for goodness sake. Ask me what I want. What do you want? Said Frank in a wooden voice. I want to be real. Frank had no idea what it was talking about. Did it mean it wanted to be human and have flesh and blood? I know what you're thinking, said the skeleton. You're thinking it's time I gave you a donut. Frank said, No, I wasn't. I was wondering if you wanted to be alive again. What do you mean, again? Said the skeleton. I never was alive. That's the whole point. Oh, do you mean you were always dead? Said Frank. Oh, come on, boy, come on. Have you ever heard of anyone who was always dead? No. Well, there you are then. But then, said Frank, I haven't heard of a skeleton talking. I'm not a skeleton, OK? Said the skeleton. Oh, what are you then? Thank goodness you asked, boy. I thought you'd never ask me. Look, I'm made of plastic. I'm a model. I'm a replica. I'm a copy. I'm not real. Do you understand? Oh, said Frank in a small voice. The plastic skeleton slumped down on the bench beside Frank. It's no good. It's no good. I'm just a great big plastic idiot skeleton. Frank thought for a moment and wondered if it should be telling him all this. But then he said, Look, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but what are you doing in this place if you're not real? I know, said the skeleton. Exactly. What am I doing in this place? I could be in all sorts of other places. I could be in a school, couldn't I? Helping people learn how all this stuff works. At that, the plastic skeleton bent its arm backwards and forwards. I know how to do it, you know. Yeah, I even know all the names. Do you know what this one is, boy? It's your arm, isn't it? No. The name of the bone, you fool. It's your arm bone. No, it's the humerus. The humerus. You say it. The humerus. There you are, you see. You've learnt something. And I know what you're thinking now. You're wondering how we can get back to talking about donuts. No, I wasn't, said Frank. I'm still wondering what you're doing here. Right, yes, said the plastic skeleton. Listen, it whispered, looking over its shoulder. I'm a copy of the wild man of Ashton Forest. You've never heard of him, have you? No, said Frank. Follow me. It took Frank over to the glass case it had just climbed out of. Look at that. It pointed to a sign in the case that said, For years, the wild man roamed through Ashton Forest, terrifying children, threatening farmers and killing cattle, until finally it died in 1886. This is a plastic copy of the original skeleton. "One day," said the plastic skeleton, "I'm going to find the real wild man of Ashton Forest skeleton, and I'm going to tell him that he can get in that smelly glass case instead of me. And he can sit there day after day, night after night, and have people staring at him. I'm fed up with it. He can have a go." The plastic wild man of Ashton Forest skeleton got up. "And then I can take up ballet dancing. I've always wanted to be a ballet dancer." It stopped. "I know what you're thinking," it said. "You're thinking, when am I going to ask you what you're doing here?" No, I wasn't thinking that," said Frank. I was wondering whether you've got any doughnuts." "No, I haven't," said the plastic skeleton, "but I think I know where there are some." "Shall we go and have a look?" "Yeah," said Frank. "Right, let's go. And anyway, why are you here?" "I'm waiting for my mum." "Don't be silly," said the plastic skeleton. "No one waits for their mum. They look for their mum. No one waits. No one waits." "Look," said Frank, "I'm waiting for my mum, OK?" "No, you're not. You're looking for her. I can see you are. You keep looking around and looking up the stairs. You're looking for her, aren't you?" "Yeah, I suppose I am," said Frank. "There you are," said the plastic skeleton. "I'm always right. Yeah. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look for doughnuts. And I'll tell you something else. We're going to look for the real wild man of Ashton Forest skeleton as well." "Are we?" said Frank in that small voice. "Is he here?" "Oh, well, of course he is, you doughnut," said the plastic skeleton. "I'm not a doughnut," said Frank. "Aren't you?" said the plastic skeleton. Suddenly, Frank started feeling a little bit worried again. Perhaps this skeleton thought people like him were doughnuts and it was going to eat him. And were they really going to look for the wild man of Ashton Forest skeleton? "Right, we haven't got long," said the plastic skeleton. "Let's go. We've got lots to do. Doughnuts, the wild man, doughnuts and the wild man." And the two of them, the plastic skeleton and Frank, began to cross the shiny museum floor together. Frank was beginning to think that looking for his mum would be a good idea as well. I hope you enjoyed your thinking about doughnuts. If you want to know more about all the new stories and poems I put up here on Kids Poems and Stories with Michael Rosen, then why not follow the link and subscribe to the channel.